Do we really believe that the United States would be in this war absent Netanyahu? Would the United States have just decided to do this otherwise?
So Mehdi Hasan just delivered one of the most devastating critiques of democratic cowardice I've heard. He's calling out how Netanyahu manipulated Trump into this Iran war while Democrats sit silent. This is about war profiteering, AIPAC money, and moral bankruptcy. Let's break this down.
Number one, Netanyahu wanted Obama to do this. Yep. This isn't new. It's not like this even just started with Trump. He's wanted to go to war with Iran for decades. He said that himself in his own words after this.
So I've been dreaming about it for 40 years, I think he said last week.
So I was there at the time, and I can tell you that, he wanted to do this in the Obama years, and that wasn't exactly a secret. That's the first thing.
This connects directly to Netanyahu's lies about Iraqi WMDs in 2002. He's been pushing American wars for 20 years. First Iraq, now Iran. The same playbook: manufactured threats, false intelligence, American blood for Israeli objectives. Congress gave him standing ovations while he lied us into disaster.
I think the second thing is the capabilities, because the thing that the United States, from a security perspective, is threatened by is principally the Iranian nuclear program, right? That could pose a risk to global nonproliferation. The United States has an interest in a government like Iran's not obtaining a nuclear weapon. This war is not about that.
Exactly right. The JCPOA was working perfectly. IAEA confirmed Iran's full compliance until Trump withdrew in 2018. Iran had eliminated 97% of its uranium stockpile and dismantled thousands of centrifuges. Trump created this crisis by abandoning diplomacy for Netanyahu's war agenda.
Iran wasn't anywhere near having enough nuclear fuel for a weapon. They hadn't even begun a weaponization program. So the targets, when Trump talks about we need to take out their ballistic missiles and we need to take out their military capability, well, those are threats to Israel. They're not threats to the United States. Iran doesn't have ballistic missile capability that could reach anywhere near the United States, despite what Trump was kind of beginning to say before the war about an ICBM program. That doesn't exist.
Meanwhile, Israel has 200 to 300 nuclear warheads and the most advanced military in the region. We're fighting Iran's defensive capabilities to preserve Israeli military dominance. Iran's missiles can't reach America. They're designed to deter Israeli aggression. We're the global enforcer for apartheid.
And then the last piece, Mehdi, that is just staring us in the face here is that there was no groundswell of support for this in the United States or even in the Republican Party or the MAGA movement. Who was for this? It's a very small number of people. It was Netanyahu and his coalition government in Israel, like Lindsey Graham and some of the kind of real dead-ender hawks in the United States.
Polling shows 73% of Americans oppose this war, including 68% of Republicans. But Congress votes for it anyway because AIPAC donors demand it. This is the classic foreign policy establishment pattern. Ignore public opinion, serve elite interests, send working class kids to die.
And so, look, I want to be clear, and I'm not just saying this to kind of avoid the charge of anti-Semitism, which has been leveled at me for different things over the years, which is ironic because my mother's Jewish, but put that aside. Donald Trump is responsible. I actually don't think it's fair to say
I agree.
It's all Netanyahu. No, this is the guy who took us to war. He could have said no to Netanyahu.
Obama resisted Netanyahu's Iran war pressure for 8 years. Biden initially tried diplomacy before caving to Israeli demands. Trump just handed Netanyahu the keys from day one. Presidential weakness enabled this, but the manipulation campaign was decades in the making.
But if you, as a matter of analysis, can acknowledge that Bibi pushed him to do this, that, as Marco Rubio said out loud, one of the reasons they did it might have been that they couldn't tell Israel no. And so if Israel struck, and I'll tell you, Mehdi, when we did war games on Iran, it was always an understanding that if Israel bombed Iran and Iran started attacking Israel, the United States would probably get drawn in. Everybody knows that who's followed this issue. And I think Rubio said the quiet part out loud, that they could either do it with Israel or they could get drawn in, as they did in the 12-Day War. And here we are.
Classic entrapment strategy. Exactly how Britain dragged America into World War I, how Taiwan could trigger US-China conflict today. Smaller allies attack, then cry for help when retaliation comes. Israel perfected this with Gaza, now scaling it up to Iran. American sovereignty hijacked.
And because to me, it's a moral question. It's a right versus wrong question. And it's a credibility question, right? Democrats often want to carve out on these issues, right? Either because of AIPAC or because they don't want to look weak or whatever the thing is. If you can't say that I'm uniformly against an illegal and stupid war launched by an authoritarian president who seems to be getting more comfortable launching illegal and stupid wars, if you can't stand up on that issue, first of all, that's wrong. But second of all, how can I trust you on anything? You know? So to me, I don't care who the Democrat is. If you can just kind of unequivocally come out and say, I'm against this war, I'm not going to fund this war, then I don't know why you're in politics in the Democratic Party.
This exposes the complete moral bankruptcy of Democratic leadership. They'll oppose Trump on everything except war because AIPAC writes the checks. Schumer, Pelosi, all silent while Trump launches illegal aggression. Party credibility is destroyed when you can't oppose obvious evil.
And you see some Democrats who get that, you know,
Yes.
like a Chris Van Hollen or something. And you see some Democrats, including the leadership, like Chuck Schumer, who seem to fundamentally either not understand or not care that his own voters, 80, 90% of the Democratic Party, doesn't want to go along with this anymore. Majorities of Democrats believe there was a genocide in Gaza. Majorities of Jewish Democrats believe there were war crimes committed in Gaza. I've taken the position that Israel should not get any military assistance from the United States, given what it did in Gaza. That's still an extreme position. If you were to poll members of Congress, it's not at all. If you were to poll Democratic voters.
Or the American public, to be honest.
Yes. So this is a case of a party just kind of needing to get where its own voters are.
The numbers are staggering. 81% of Democratic voters want arms embargo on Israel. 76% call Gaza genocide. But Democratic leaders vote opposite their constituents because donors matter more than voters. This is oligarchy masquerading as democracy. The base sees right through it.
But what is so frustrating to me, Mehdi, is that every single one of us, you included, who was against this war, predicted all these consequences.
Yes.
It's not a mystery that the Iranian regime would dug in. It's not a mystery.
Or
that
attack the Gulf. Trump said, I didn't realize they would attack the Gulf. What?
Anybody's looked at this.
Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan said this week, I was surprised they attacked the Gulf. What? What were they going to do?
They've been saying that they would do this. They fired warning shots in the 12-day war at the Doha base to kind of send a message, hey, this is what we can do, right? Of course they're attacking the Gulf. Of course they're burning it all down. Of course the IRGC is the strongest force in Iran. They're the people with the guns, right? And so Trump, I think, is going to look for some out.
Every anti-war voice predicted this exact scenario. Iran hitting Gulf infrastructure, oil prices spiking, regional chaos spreading. Meanwhile, war hawks promised quick victory and regime change. They're always wrong about consequences, always right about profits. Same pattern since Vietnam.
I don't think Israel wants to stop this anytime soon because Israel wants violence and chaos in Iran. They want Iran. They don't want Reza Pahlavi and some Democratic
failed state. They want to live.
They want a failed state. They want it for a strategy of Israeli hegemony in the region and freedom of action to annex the West Bank and take parts of southern Lebanon, parts of southern Syria. Chaos suits that strategy. So why would Israel stop their own bombing of Iran? The Iranians get a vote too, though. They want to make clear that the cost of attacking them is very high so they don't get attacked again. So why would they stop firing drones at our bases in the Gulf? Why would they not massacre their own people if they rise up, like Trump said? So I think the problem in the White House is you have a very small number of people.
This connects to Greater Israel Project, Gaza's destruction, West Bank annexation, Lebanese occupation, Syrian land grabs. Regional chaos serves Israeli expansion while American military provides cover. We're not fighting terrorism, we're enabling colonial conquest with our blood and treasure.
But the problem is when you start wars, you can't decide when they end and on what terms they end. I would argue that the 12-day war was not a distinct war from this one. We're in one war with Iran. And so even if they stop bombing, that war is not over. Iran could keep doing things. Israel could keep doing things.
Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan. Same pattern every time. Politicians promise quick wars, then lose control as conflicts metastasize. We're already seeing Iranian proxies activate across the region. This war will define the next decade, and Trump started it for Netanyahu's political survival.